My name is Anna Kirschner, and for the last 3 years, I've been the Senior Customer Success Specialist at Stellar Tech, a mid-sized SaaS company in Frankfurt. I built our support team from 5 to 20 experts, raised our customer satisfaction score to 99.2%, and personally resolved over 3,000 technical and billing cases without a single escalation. I wrote the training manual that cut onboarding time by 2 weeks and led weekly workshops on conflict resolution. My reputation for calm under pressure and razor-sharp attention to detail made me the go-to problem solver whenever an issue threatened a key account. Every morning at exactly 8 a.m., I'd open our dashboard and cross-check unresolved tickets, prioritizing those tagged urgent, usually system outages or upgrade failures. After lunch, I coached junior agents on de-escalation techniques and parsed support metrics until the clock struck 6. Weekends were my sanctuary. I hiked the Taunus Hills and let the silence recharge my batteries before Monday's fresh set of challenges. One late afternoon in May, a new alert blinked in the queue. VIP client, Julian Caldwell, Caldwell Industries. His name glowed red, flagged by our account tier algorithm as untouchable. I'd heard whispers of Caldwell's temper. Board-level calls that ended in threats, accounts canceled on a whim. My regional director called it an honor that I'd handle his next request. A knot tightened in my chest. When the case landed, the subject line read, "Immediate data export, sensitive financial records." Caldwell demanded raw ledger data for a high-stakes audit, data our policy forbade releasing outside encrypted formats. As I hovered over the approve button, I felt the first tremor of a conflict I couldn't yet name. The company's protocols felt clear. My instincts told me the consequences could be dire. And so, as the office lights dimmed that evening, I prepared to draw my line in the sand. That evening, I drafted my response to Julian Caldwell with the precision of a surgeon. I cited Section 4.2.1 of our data security policy. No raw financial ledgers may be transmitted outside approved encryption channels. I offered an alternative, a fully redacted audit package within 48 hours, delivered via our secure portal. Minutes later, my inbox pinged with Caldwell's reply, "Unacceptable. Send the raw CSV files now, or I'll terminate our contract and sue Stellar Tech for negligence." His tone left no room for negotiation. My heart pounded as I realized this wasn't just another temper tantrum. He genuinely believed our rules were meaningless in the face of his demands. At 8:07 p.m., Martin Schulte, my regional director, called me on my mobile. I could hear the faint hum of an empty office behind him. "Anna, you know who you're dealing with," he said. "Caldwell is our largest account this quarter, worth 1.2 million euros in recurring revenue. Override the policy. Send the files." His voice was steady, but I could sense the calculation beneath it. I reminded him of our legal counsel's explicit warning. Unauthorized release of raw financial records would expose us to regulatory fines under GDPR and financial fraud statutes. Martin's patience snapped. "You'll do it, or I'll find someone who will." He hung up without another word. Trembling, I took my laptop to the empty conference room and dialed legal. I needed confirmation one last time. Senior counsel Miriam Vogel's voice was firm. "Anna, if you comply, you risk corporate liability and personal culpability. If you refuse, expect pushback from leadership, but you'll stand on solid ground." I thanked her and closed the laptop. At 9:45 p.m., I emailed Martin one final time. "I cannot comply with an instruction that violates company policy and legal standards. I will escalate this to the CEO and the board if necessary." I hit send. The next morning, the shock came swift and cold. I arrived at my desk to find an envelope stamped "Confidential, Immediate Action Required." Inside lay a termination notice citing, quote, "gross insubordination and failure to meet managerial directives." The signature block bore the name of Human Resources Director Sabine Delgado, the same colleague I'd mentored only months before. My pulse thudded so loud I was sure everyone heard it. I sprinted to HR, clutching my severance paperwork, demanding an explanation. Sabine refused to look me in the eye and recited a rehearsed statement. "Your refusal to follow direct orders has compromised our client relationship." Leaving the building, I could still taste the betrayal. Martin's cold stare, Sabine's rehearsed script, Caldwell's looming lawsuit threat. It all blended into a bitter cocktail of grief and rage. On my commute home, I watched my reflection in tram windows. Shoulders slumped, eyes glassy. I remembered how I'd shared my conflict resolution framework with Sabine in our first week together. Now she'd weaponized my own manual to advance corporate interests over ethical standards. As the Taunus Hills appeared on the horizon, their silent calm mocked my turmoil. For the first time in years, I questioned everything I'd built. My career lay in pieces, scattered across that gleaming office floor. And yet, beneath the shock, a spark of defiance flickered. I would not let injustice define me. That morning, I sat at my kitchen table with a stack of documents. My termination letter, company policies, email threads with Martin, and Miriam Vogel's notes. The initial shock had ebbed, replaced by a curious calm. I traced every timestamp, every directive, and realized the company had sacrificed legal compliance for short-term revenue. My refusal to bend policy exposed a deeper rot. My emotions settled into a single purpose. I would reclaim control. No lawsuits, no bitterness, just a plan. I reconstructed the timeline on a whiteboard. May 15th, Caldwell's raw data demand. 8:07 p.m., Martin's override call. 9:45 p.m., my final refusal. May 16th, HR's termination notice. Seeing it visually made the injustice concrete. I circled gross insubordination in red, then drew arrows to GDPR Article 32, encryption requirements, and our internal Section 4.2.1. The evidence was incontrovertible. I'd acted not only ethically, but in line with every regulation. With clarity came strategy. My first call was to labor attorney Hans Berg, who specialized in wrongful termination cases under German law. Over encrypted video, he confirmed I had grounds for a claim. He warned, however, that litigation would drag me into a year-long battle with no guaranteed outcome. But more importantly, he noted a far more valuable asset I owned: my professional reputation and proprietary training materials, my data security playbook, de-escalation framework, and onboarding protocols. I decided on a purposeful pivot. I would leverage my unique skills to found Kirschner Customer Success Solutions GmbH. Drawing from my handbook, I drafted a mission statement: deliver principled, regulation-first support systems that protect clients and companies alike. I registered the GmbH, finalized bylaws, and opened a business bank account. Each administrative task felt like reclaiming territory that StellarTech had tried to erase. Next came the business plan. I targeted mid-sized SaaS firms with annual recurring revenues between 5 million euros and 50 million euros. Companies large enough to need rigorous customer success protocols, but agile enough to adopt bespoke consultancy. I laid out a revenue model: a 50,000 euros annual retainer for policy design, plus sliding scale fees for training workshops and system audits. I forecasted break-even within 9 months based on conservative adoption rates. I refined my unique selling proposition into 3 pillars: airtight compliance, scalable training, and proactive escalation mechanisms. For compliance, I detailed a modular policy template aligned with GDPR, SOC2, and ISO 27001. For training, I offered a 3-tier curriculum, from frontline agents to C-level executives, complete with role-play simulations and psychometric assessments. For escalation, I designed a ticket triage algorithm with built-in SLA thresholds and automatic legal referrals. With the core services defined, I built the pitch deck in Keynote. Slide 1 introduced my credentials: 3,000 resolved cases, 99.2% satisfaction, a 14-day onboarding reduction. Slide 2 mapped the mid-market opportunity: 1,200 potential clients in DACH alone. Slide 3 showcased the 3-pillar model. Slide 4 projected a 500,000 euros hire more expansion in year 2. Slide 5 outlined risk mitigation: strict NDA terms, liability caps, and clear termination clauses. To find my first investor and anchor client, I turned back to Caldwell. I researched his company registry entry, confirmed his executive email, and cross-referenced it with a mutual connection on LinkedIn: Jochen Meyer, former head of operations at StellarTech. A brief message to Jochen yielded Caldwell's direct address and a personal introduction in 2 days. I drafted a personalized proposal to Caldwell, opening with an acknowledgement: I understand the challenges you faced with StellarTech's policy gaps. I laid out a corrective roadmap: immediate audit of Caldwell Industries' data export protocols, installation of an encrypted API gateway within 4 weeks, and a 24/7 escalation hotline. I proposed a 75,000 euros pilot engagement with a binding service-level agreement and milestone-based payments. Plus, to demonstrate confidence, I enclosed non-disclosure and retainer agreements, drafted by Hans Berg. They specified a 25,000 euros upfront engagement fee, clear deliverables, and a 30-day notice termination clause. I highlighted my training manual, 3 chapters reproduced in redacted form, and provided a reference from one of my top-performing agents, Lena Fisher, now at Cloudwave Solutions. Behind the scenes, I recruited 2 trusted former StellarTech colleagues under a safe harbor provision in our non-compete clauses. Stefan Kohler, a software engineer, would handle the encrypted portal build on AWS Lambda and Google Cloud Functions. Anita Winkler, an ex-team lead, would run workshops and manage client onboarding. We signed independent contractor agreements to avoid any corporate entanglements. With my team assembled, the legal framework in place, and the pitch deck polished, I set a date, June 20th. That afternoon, I rehearsed my presentation in my living room, timing each slide, framing every answer to anticipated objections. Cost, implementation time, ROI. I scripted responses. If he questioned the pilot fee, I'd point to risk mitigation. If he challenged the SLA, I'd reference our liability caps and data processing agreements. As June 20th approached, I felt an unfamiliar serenity. The raw anger that followed my firing had transformed into focused determination. I had mapped every risk, prepared every contingency, and aligned every resource. No longer a victim, I was now the architect of my destiny. The real battle was still ahead, but for the first time since that night in May, I knew exactly how I would win. On June 20th, I woke before dawn, a quiet thrill in my chest. My home office was transformed into mission control. 2 monitors, one displaying the keynote slides, the other my notes, and a live timer. Stefan had tested the Zoom link, Anita was on standby with her workshop materials, and Hans Berg reminded me via text that our agreements were ironclad. At exactly 9 a.m., I clicked join and saw Julian Caldwell's face fill the screen, sharper, taut with anticipation, and flanked by his CIO, Monica Reyes. My voice was steady as I began. Thank you for your time. Today, I'll walk you through a targeted audit and the rollout of an encrypted API gateway to secure your financial exports. Slide after slide, I moved through our 3-pillar model. I described the audit methodology, log ingestion via Python scripts, parsing 3 months of S3 bucket writes, cross-referenced with AWS CloudTrail events. I highlighted 2 critical findings: unrestricted role-based access policies on sensitive tables and missing client-side encryption for CSV exports. Monica's eyebrows rose when I showed the snippet of a ledger download command where plain text data flowed over HTTP. Caldwell leaned in as I walked them through the mitigation roadmap. Implement KMS key rotation every 30 days. Configure VPC endpoints for internal API calls. And wrap the export function in an AWS Lambda proxy that enforces AES 256 encryption. Midway, Caldwell interrupted. Your fee seems high for a single pilot. I paused, then pulled up the SLA slide. This 75,000 euros covers the audit, the gateway build, and guaranteed 99.9% uptime for encrypted exports. Without it, non-compliance fines under GDPR could exceed 250,000 euros, let alone reputational damage. His gaze flicked to Monica, whose nod was subtle but decisive. I clicked to the contract slide. Once you approve, my team and I can begin within 48 hours. He signed on the dotted line with a digital pen. The slate of my plan was in motion. 2 days later, Stefan and I logged into Caldwell Industries' AWS console with a time-limited IAM role. We ran the audit scripts, generated a full report in Markdown, and dropped it into a shared Confluence space. I synthesized the findings into a 1-page executive summary, 3 high-risk items and 5 medium-risk recommendations, each tied to a regulatory article. Stefan wrote the infrastructure as code templates in Terraform, provisioning a new KMS key, Lambda functions, and secure API gateway endpoints. We tested in a staging VPC, monitoring logs in CloudWatch. Every failed invocation returned HTTP 403. Every successful export logged an encrypted S3 PUT. Meanwhile, Anita led the first training workshop via Cisco WebEx. The session brought 6 of Caldwell's support engineers together for roleplay, handling an executive's raw data demand versus following the new encryption protocols. I watched as they wrestled with real scenarios, threatened legal action, C-level tantrums, and practiced delivering alternative solution scripts I had authored. By the end, their confidence was palpable. They could shield compliance issues without sacrificing customer trust. Anita closed with our escalation tree, linking each concern to an SLA-backed path directly to my 24/7 hotline. That first week passed in a blur of code commits, policy tweaks, and workshop feedback. On day 5, a true test arrived. Caldwell's CFO emailed at 2:13 a.m., requesting an urgent ad hoc export of Q2 revenue breakdown. My phone buzzed beneath the pillow. I opened the encrypted portal, ran the export through our Lambda proxy, and delivered the password-protected CSV within 55 minutes. At 3:10 a.m., his reply came, "Remarkable service. You've earned our trust." By the end of month 1, the metrics spoke clearly: 0 compliance incidents, a 100% SLA success rate, and a 40% reduction in support escalations on financial queries. Caldwell signed off on the pilot's final milestone, releasing the second tranche of €50,000 and greenlighting a full-scale rollout across his European subsidiaries. I drafted a Phase 2 plan with Anita and Stefan, additional encryption layers for SFTP transfers, and advanced analytics dashboards in Grafana linked to CloudWatch metrics. As I closed my laptop that evening, I felt no triumphalism, only a calm satisfaction. My plan had unfolded exactly as I designed, from the initial meeting to every line of code, from the first workshop to that 3 a.m. export. I'd executed with precision, upheld every principle, and turned my adversary into my strongest supporter. The battle I'd once feared was now a blueprint for lasting success. On December 2nd, exactly 6 months after the pilot's successful conclusion, I received an unexpected summons from Julian Caldwell. His assistant requested my presence at Caldwell Industries headquarters for a matter of strategic importance. My heart raced as I prepared, recalling every line of code, every workshop slide, and every high-stakes export we'd secured. I arrived at their glass-fronted tower in Unterlinden, just as the sun gilded the Rhine, determined to treat this like another client meeting, but I sensed the air crackled with something more. Inside a sleek boardroom, I found Julian flanked by Monica Reyes, his CIO, and Martin Krell, his newly appointed general counsel. Julian gestured to a polished mahogany table where lay a thick binder of correspondence, my emails with StellarTech leadership, internal policy excerpts, and the termination notice stamped confidential. He spoke without preamble. "Anna, you did more than protect our data, you upheld every principle this industry claims to value. I refuse to work with any vendor or partner that treats integrity as optional." He closed the binder and turned to Monica. "We're exercising our right under Section 7. 3 of our master services agreement to terminate all current support contracts with StellarTech effective immediately." His announcement landed like thunder. The room's tension snapped into applause, as Caldwell described how StellarTech's board had ignored his counsel to review their compliance framework. He revealed he'd retained legal counsel to claim damages for negligence, and had already redirected €1.2 million in annual spend to his own network of preferred vendors. Monica added that she'd posted a detailed LinkedIn article dissecting the failed relationship, complete with public excerpts from our audit report, which rapidly trended in SaaS and cybersecurity circles. The post drew industry attention, and within hours, analysts at 3 major research firms downgraded StellarTech's market valuation by 5% for governance risk. Then Julian leaned forward and smiled. "Anna, I want to do more than hire you as a consultant. I want to invest in you." He slid a term sheet across the table. €250,000 for 20% equity in Kirschner Customer Success Solutions GmbH, plus a board observer seat for him. The document included pro rata rights, liquidation preferences, and vesting schedules for future hires. My vision, laid out slide by slide over that Zoom call in June, now had a strategic partner ready to accelerate growth. My chest tightened as I signed on the digital pad, the screen confirming our new partnership with a single green check mark. News of Caldwell's investment spread like wildfire. Tech blogs praised the move as, quote, principled venture capital, and hailed Kirschner GmbH as a rising authority in compliance-first support. Within 24 hours, I fielded inquiries from 4 potential clients and a regional German bank offering a €100,000 line of credit. Stefan and Anita called to celebrate. They'd seen the LinkedIn post and watched the valuation estimates climb in real time. Later that evening, as we toasted over video, I felt a profound shift. The person who had been fired for doing the right thing was now sought after precisely for that integrity. At StellarTech, the fallout was swift. The board launched an internal investigation into Martin Schulte's directives. By year-end, Sabine Delgado resigned amid a confidentiality breach scandal, and Martin was reassigned to a non-client-facing role pending review. Their punitive actions had backfired, tarnishing the company's reputation far more than my refusal ever could. I declined a late-night call from Human Resources offering me reinstatement and back pay. My answer was simple. I no longer needed their corporate umbrella. Standing on my balcony the next morning, I watched the Taunus Hills reappear in the crisp winter light. The skyline of Frankfurt glittered like a promise. Kirschner GmbH had moved from theory to triumph, fueled by an investor who once demanded my dismissal. Justice, I realized, is not a victory declared by courts or boardrooms alone, but a force that honors competence, values, and unwavering principle. In the end, respect for integrity proved more powerful than fear of a VIP client.